It's the Undress Show. Yes, it's Wednesday night Undress, recorded in front of an audience filled with as much expectation and excitement as two old men asleep in front of the fire after lunch on Christmas Day. Yes, folks, we're back at Conroy's Emporium, where you can catch anything your heart desires. Now, my fellow Undressed, it's me, Jeremy Taylor, your host, and my job is to attempt to bring some semblance of credibility, a soupçon of amusement, and light to the shadows of the mundane reality that's the back hall at Conroy's. As we look around us and reflect on what we did to end up here, I'm not saying it's as bad as a prison sentence. It's worse, because we're here voluntarily. Those rotting floorboards, the chairs with nails sticking through the seats, the old steak fries, happy times. But I digress. On our naked but no undressed panel today.
A nail in an ass is always a good old time.
As Eeyore would say. The very wise Dr. Orlando, Kathleen Taylor, Bulgaria's answer to Dr. Strangelove, Ivan Ivanov, and fresh from an advisory tour to a small rehearsal room in an alley off Broadway, so small would make Diagon Alley look like Park Avenue, Donna Kane-Swan. First, I know you all want to know what's been going on at Conroy's Bar during the week. Well, as you know, Conroy talks to all sorts of people, and it's a source of constant amazement to me. Constant. Who he talks to. In fact, he was chapping on the phone the other day to the president, believe it or not. The president had called in for a portion of Conroy's famous steak fries and hot sauce to be medevaced to the West Wing. And whilst on the phone, the president confided in Conroy about how the election's going from his perspective. The president said, "You know, Conroy," he said, "it's a funny thing, this election, you know." He says you know a lot, the president does. If Hillary wins, it'll be the first time two American presidents have had sex with each other. And if Trump wins, it'll be the first time a billionaire has had to move into public housing recently vacated by an African-American family from Chicago. Surprising, wasn't it? Fancy that. So let's get on with the show. I checked this weekend. We're still getting hundreds of hits on the Undress website. Clearly, we'll soon be competing on an equal basis with the porn sites for subscribers. My first thought tonight is, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in the lavatory? Every man's worst nightmare is a python sings its fans into a man's penis. An 11 python had a go. Yeah, an 11-foot python had a go at a man in Thailand who was quietly wanting to have a dump. The man survived just after a huge loss of blood, and believe it or not, the snake survived too.
Oh my God, this guy is so freaking lucky. He's going to get laid left and right now. Only because of the statement, a huge loss of blood. A huge loss of blood he suffered. No, everybody's going to be around that guy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, most people would blame the snake and say, you know, that's rude and inconsiderate for the snake to do this. But I think, you know, you can't look at it this way. You know, it's a snake is a snake. He's not thinking. He's just probably assumed that it's French kissing another snake.
It's a dingly-dangly thing.
Maybe, yes. Or he didn't like what was coming down on top of it.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been there in the first place, Ivanov. He shouldn't have been. It's not right, you know.
In the bathroom?
No, you don't have snakes down the lavatory. It's not right.
Well, you know.
I don't think that's where they were keeping the snake.
Yeah.
I think the snake maybe just ended up there. Like, that's kind of what snakes like to do, like find...
What, end up in the lavatory?
Well, they like to find,
this
like,
is a freaking
places
11-foot python.
That's beyond the point.
And you're not talking about the snake.
No.
But that's their thing. They like to find little cubby holes. They
You're
find
an
a pipe
African-American. We're Europeans. We know about these things,
Well,
don't we?
well, you know.
Lewis never knows what's going to bite him because he's too far away from the pisser when he's taking a leak.
So what is... What is the worst thing?
And how dare you say that these will be the first two presidents that had sex with each other? Don't you know Nixon and Carter had a little thing?
Oh.
Yeah.
And when he says little thing.
Not a python.
So what's the worst thing
this
that's
is not
ever...
starting out well this evening.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in the lavatory, Donna? Let's get something sensible. Sensible thought.
It's not horrible. It just completely displayed my physical weaknesses as a human being. Because when I landed in Turkey, of course, in the airport, they had what they call European bathrooms. But then, you know, you're going to town and you're going to your apartment, and suddenly I was introduced to what everyone called the Asian toilet. And
can you just describe that a bit more for us? I mean,
an Asian
seriously.
toilet is essentially a porcelain hole in the ground.
Right.
That's hence the snakes coming
Yeah,
out of it.
hence the stakes. I immediately understood why that part of the world does nothing with their left hand. Got it quickly, very quickly, and I'll
Yes.
let you use your imaginations, because I also quickly learned to carry a roll of toilet paper with me everywhere I went. But mainly, it was the shame of just not being able to get up from that position.
Yeah.
Well,
You
they
know-
spent their whole lives getting up
Well,
and down. You'd see 90-year-old women not thinking twice about it.
I
But boy,
thought-
I had to.
I thought it was a legend about the Turks, but I went to Istanbul this last year, and we actually went into a restaurant, and they had one of those toilets where you just a hole and you squat, and believe it or not, they had in the restaurant toilet
You had the bucket and the spigot on the side.
with water
Yeah.
and no toilet paper.
Yes, that is
so
the tradition.
you will use your hand and then wash your hand with
Did
water.
you all not
And then
get
go
when I
back and
said
finish
never
dinner?
use your left
No.
hand because
No,
you
we
fill
left.
the bucket with water, and you use your hand
Yeah.
and then dump the rest of the water down the hole to help it go down because gravity is the only thing making
Yeah.
that system work.
And by the way, we're all high and mighty on our pedestal here, but there's this product that I discovered on Shark Tank called the Squatty Potty. Are you familiar with the Squatty Potty?
I am.
All right, so
I am not.
they have an incredible commercial, by the way, featuring a unicorn
Pooping onto an ice cream
online.
cone.
But
Really?
yeah, incredible commercial. A unicorn pooping ice cream, rainbow ice cream.
I am
the-
never going to eat ice cream
The
again.
Squatty Potty is actually an incredible device. Which
Did you
is,
invent it?
No, I wish they made a lot of money with this thing.
Uh-huh.
They introduced it on Shark Tank. It's very simple. It's basically a little small pedestal, small step, if you will,
platform, yeah.
plastic, that fits under your legs when you sit on the stool in the bathroom. And then you just simply lift your legs and put them on top of that step. Apparently, our bodies, we were created to squat when we go number 2. And really has a huge
So it's like
effect.
a footstool that you put in front of the
but what
toilet.
it does is it really empties you, and it does wonders for your system. And a lot of people are buying this thing, and because of the commercial, because of Shark Tank, and a lot of doctors that testify unsolicited, that testified as positively for these products. So it's really interesting.
Lewis.
So yeah, they have a diagram on the commercial and a little video that goes along with it, an animated video that actually shows you the sphincter muscle. Apparently, when you're sitting at a 90-degree angle, it actually binds. So there's this muscle that kind of wraps around the tube that is actually contracted so that you can't go, or it makes it much
Is
harder
it
to go.
in a design on a girl who's wearing flesh-colored tights all over? And
In my dreams, yes, but no.
there's
In this
a
commercial,
commercial like that.
It's a
and
unicorn. And
No,
it's
no, no.
very
Feel
funny.
ill.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's literally, it looks like a rubber band that's surrounding a tube. And when you are sitting, that rubber band is pulling up against the tube. It's,
Okay.
got pressure against the tube. And basically moving your legs up so that it forms a less than 90-degree angle completely relaxes that muscle.
And you're extremely relaxed until you get bitten by a snake. Then you're not as relaxed anymore. But
true.
it's good.
What's the worst
Yeah.
thing that's ever happened to you, Kathleen, in the lavatory?
Nothing bad has ever happened to me in the lavatory. I'm perfect. I forget.
You haven't dropped
You
your
haven't.
glasses down
Learned
and
that,
out.
no?
You've never dropped your...
No.
What about the lavatory roll? Or
No.
someone walking into you, in on you?
No. I'm just perfect.
You have lived a very sheltered life.
I'm not going to admit any of it anyway. Let me put it
Lewis,
that
what's the
way.
worst thing that's ever happened to you in the lavatory?
Kind of got to go with Kath on this. I actually don't particularly view the bathroom as a fearful place. About the worst thing that I can think of that's ever happened to me is actually when I was in Bulgaria with my compadre here. We were in this fantastic house that literally had like hiding spaces for the guy to hide his mistresses in case his wife showed up.
Yeah, he had secret doors to the bedrooms and everything. It was really amazing. Very rich guy.
Yeah.
So
This guy brews his own brandy in the basement. Apparently, everybody does it in Bulgaria. And I drank
So much.
Yes, it was awesome. I drank an industrial amount of
Oh my!
Brandy, yeah.
And you
And
ended up in the bathroom.
I ended up in the bathroom, and the shame that I had at throwing up in this very rich guy's bathroom required me to. There wasn't a bunch of toilet paper in the bathroom, and I had to get the goop up somehow. So I scooped it up with my hands and put it in the toilet.
Wow, that's
Okay.
episode 1 of the new hit series, The Game of Porcelain Thrones. I had several incidents. I had one at a Royals game, early 90s. Went into the bathroom, and the bathroom is really weird. You pee in this giant, like a tub.
Yeah.
Trough.
Yeah.
Trough, yeah.
They're in lots
And
of places.
I dropped my wallet in that thing. I dropped my wallet in that fucking thing.
Did
So
you-
that was horrible.
Did you actually pick it up again?
I did, and I washed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're a brave
Yeah.
man.
Well, you
But
have
I,
to.
I had
mean,
to. Everything
your
was in.
license?
Yeah, everything was in the wallet. And then
I would've
another.
called Chase Bank and said somebody stole my wallet.
Everything. Yeah. What else? One time, I read Michelle Malkin column while in the bathroom. That's one of the most frightening experiences. If you're not familiar with Michelle Malkin, she's conservative syndicated columnist, one of the worst
It
human
is
beings
scary.
in the world. What else? I've been in the bathroom.
You guys have never had
Yeah.
the teenage girl's nightmare. Teenage girls
We
have
are
to deal
not
with
teenage girls.
tampons.
Uh-huh.
And when you don't have any place else to throw one of those things, and you're at dinner with your parents at another place, another person's house, so you put it down the toilet and it backs up.
Oh yeah, that's bad. Yeah.
That's bad news.
That's bad, and if you go somewhere at a party in the bathroom and it doesn't flush, that's also bad. I've heard that happen. It hasn't happened to me yet, but I've kind of dread this idea.
You see, something is coming back to Donna now.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just going to comment on hers because it happened to just about everyone I knew at various stages
yeah.
of growing up, where it's spring, you've pulled out the white pants, and boom.
Yeah.
And now, and you pulled them out because you're going to a party and you want to look great, but you now have to wrap a sweater around you and walk backwards out of the party.
And there's like a stain the shape of the Last Supper on your butt. Yeah, that's bad. Now,
Yeah.
I
Go on.
remember once I was
Keep-
thinking about your gutter, peeing into the gutter.
yes.
You know, one
oh
of the
God.
nice things about England, of course, if you're doing that, invariably they paint black behind you, and you can write on the wall. If the weather's right, you can write stories and things like that. But of course, if you're at a concert,
Yeah.
right, an outdoor concert, they used to put rain gutter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the guys would go and pee in the gutter, and then it would go down all the way to a big tub. And it always used to amuse me when you look at the tub. It had a hell of a head on it. Now
Oh,
let me
yeah.
let me ask another question. Weed legalization proponents may have an unlikely ally in Kansas, where we broadcast this from and record it. You don't have to be high to say that Brownback and most of Kansas's elected officials in the state are conservative. Well, we got that. So how could one of the most conservative states in the nation actually be advancing the marijuana legalization movement? Brownback's sweeping tax cuts show decline instead of growth, and Moody's cut the state's credit rating. Brownback may be forced to find new revenue streams, and if you look at Colorado's model, it's really doing very well. If we look at the gross domestic product in Kansas at 1.9%, and that's exactly half the percent growth Colorado experienced. Legalizing marijuana also would lead to spending cuts. For example, 11% of Kansas inmates are serving time on drugs charging. 68% of Kansans support patient access to medical marijuana. I'd like to start with Donna.
Hear, hear, yay, yay, bring it on, can't wait. If it doesn't change my opinion of
Sounded
Brownback
like
one
Kanye.
way or another, if he supports it, I'm just a huge proponent of marijuana, period, for any use, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
It's bleeding across the border already in southwest Kansas.
No, we've moved on from
Yeah.
that now.
The marijuana
Watch it.
period is
Yeah.
bleeding over the.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You
But
know-
you
No,
I mean,
realize,
the
of course,
attitude-
that the people they're looking
in Western Kansas is the more conservative part of the state. And if their attitudes on marijuana are softening, that might change the state.
I am curious to know what you mean when you say it's bleeding over. I mean, pot has always been here, so
Yeah, but it has the use of marijuana apparently is really going up
The more
in Western
casual
Kansas. The ones who have
attitudes towards-
access to it,
Yeah.
it's not viewed as that bad anymore.
Is it true though the rumor that the cops are kind of hovering around the border with Colorado,
Yes.
waiting?
Oh,
for people?
absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I was going to say, what they're looking for is people our age and the very young, teenagers coming across, and 20-year-olds kind of thing.
I
But-
kind of find it
isn't
humorous
that your age?
oh, I wish.
I've
Go
heard
on.
all sorts of stories about people renting cars. You've got to be very careful not to rent a car, an SUV type car in somewhere like Denver.
Yeah.
Because it is illegal to have places that you can hide marijuana on a vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's illegal, even if it is a part of the original equipment of the car.
Wow.
And so what happens is you get over to Kansas, and you're about 10 miles in, and the police pull you over, and they have a dog with them. Well, if someone did have marijuana legally in that vehicle, right, driving around Denver or somewhere like that, the dog will smell marijuana.
Yeah.
The police officer is then entitled to arrest you. And what they have been doing on a number of occasions,
and probably steal all your money.
not
on a
stealing
number of
when the police
occasions,
do it.
is they know exactly where to look depending on which make and model of the car it is.
Yeah.
They can pull aside what's like a storage cubby or something and say, this is where you've been hiding the marijuana.
Yeah.
And it's happening on I won't know if it's a daily basis, but very, very regular. So it's a thought, I just want to know though, the governor is up onto all sorts of things. Do you think we might see medical marijuana in this state of Kansas in the near future, Lewis?
I would be shocked if we don't. The state is so broke. Just like your intro said, Sammy's got to find money somewhere, and there's lots of fertile farm ground in Kansas.
Donna?
I'm not even sure now whether it's just a financial matter. I think that, granted, it's because it's a Schedule 1, they can't do much research. But what research they have been able to do has determined that it can help stop the horrible opiate addictions and deaths that have been occurring. And I think that idea is now pervading the regular culture, right on down the line. And this would be to everyone's benefit.
There's a House bill, 2049, in the Kansas legislature that has passed the legislature, the House and the Senate. It is awaiting the governor's signature. He hasn't either vetoed it or signed it yet. If he doesn't veto it, it'll take effect July 1st, and it makes marijuana possession just a Class B misdemeanor, not Class A. Second offense makes it a Class A, and it's not until the third that it becomes a felony.
Yeah.
Now, so they're easing up. They are going in that direction.
So you're thinking by stage they'll eventually legalize, because I think this is a eventual profit and cash cow if they actually completely legalize it. And Kansas being a farmer's state, agricultural state, the farmers really quickly will get oriented towards the most profitable crop, and it's going to be a huge benefit to the state.
Lewis?
I'm sorry, Don. I got to take umbrage with what you said. You implied that the state of Kansas is going to use scientific facts to make
yes.
law.
Yeah, okay, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But, even I look at someone like myself who, obviously, I've just said it, I'm a huge proponent of marijuana, spent a good many years, indulging. But I also know that I am allergic.
Good evening, officer.
Yeah.
I am allergic to many drugs, and we know now that it may be a particular strain, but, it is a painkiller. It does help with so many different medical conditions. And yes, I do look to this as something that is going to help me, as I get older.
Well, epilepsy, I don't know if anybody here knows anything about. I've just read about it.
Yes.
The kids with epilepsy,
Hemp oil.
who are fitting, every hour or two, and this medical cannabis, cuts down that fitting. In one case of a kid from Kansas, to weeks. between a fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the parents are trying to move, and somebody was getting in the way of it because of the legal issues.
There was somebody we
They
didn't
tried
know,
to,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody was arrested.
they were telling us,
That's
yeah.
right.
Well, of course, the papers have been following the family that did move. What was it, a year ago, 2 years ago now? And they've continued periodically. The Journal World will check in on them. And their daughter is doing so much better as a result
It's
of having
so,
So
moved
my
there.
question then, if I can move on to sort of like a second, a twofer, is it is it a religious thing that people are against the marijuana? What is it? Because surely, if you can see a kiddie is so much better, why would one say no?
Are
if,
you
if
actually
we're just
trying
talking
to
about
ascribe reason to
No,
the
come
Kansas
on, I mean,
legislature?
they-
You know what? That
No.
doesn't happen. They
a
don't
lot
go
of the
together.
entire
people,
country,
look, the people in the legislature, they may be far-right Republicans. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people.
Yeah, it
it
does.
just. Well, all right. I'm from England, and I don't like.
Well,
to,
it had to do with historically. It had to do with the hemp, the prohibition basically of marijuana had to do with business, right?
Yeah.
It was the special interests that were like liquor and.
Hold
was
on,
it-
Donna's got a different story.
Disagreeing with you, in each case of every drug we had in this country, and I am going back many, like 100 years or more, in each case, the drug was used, even when it was popular in the culture, there were no problems, it was used to stir up racial hatred and point to Hispanics use this and this, we must get rid of the Hispanics. The blacks use this and this, we must get rid of the blacks. The Chinese use this, we must get rid of them. It had nothing to do with the actual effects or non-effects of the drug. It was used as a propaganda campaign to stir up hatred against minorities.
But I think, Evo, you're referring to the war for the tobacco farmers
Yes.
versus the hemp farmers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
plus, you have an entire generation. I'm sorry, I don't know if it's yours. I'm a little fuzzy on my timelines here. But with Nancy Reagan, just say no. You're not going to find, necessarily on either end disagree with marijuana. Oftentimes, you're finding it in that kind of middle ground with that whole generation that just demonized drugs to such a great extent.
Well, yeah, but I come from a generation where everybody did everything. And I have friends who died of drug overdoses and stuff like that. And we didn't feel the same way about marijuana as we did about stuff that you inject or pill popping.
I would.
But I would
we
say
come from the
this.
same generation.
Right,
I'm a
I
little
would
bit
say-
behind you, but
would
I
s-
agree.
I would say that smoking pot, one way or another, or shit cookies or anything like that, it tends to make you care about things less.
Yeah.
And that makes you dangerous. So, for example, I can say that I have driven semis down motorways in England when I really shouldn't have done. 40
Whether
years
you
ago.
were smoking
I was
marijuana
not
or
in a
not.
semi, but I was in a car.
And all I would say is thank God for rumble strips.
Yeah, whatever that is. But
Warn you
two
when-
thoughts.
Warn you when you're off the track.
Yeah, they're on your highways too.
Yeah.
Go on.
Two thoughts. One, isn't it humorous that now there's two reasons to call Denver a mile-high city? And then the other thought was you mentioned that they were actually searching for secret compartments in vehicles where you can hide marijuana. And I imagined them stopping Willie Nelson's bus, and then they'll be searching for a secret compartment where there is no marijuana. They're like, "Oh my God! Look, there's a
This
little
one's
pocket
empty."
here. He managed not to have marijuana. This is amazing."
I'm thinking his bus has probably been stopped plenty.
A million times.
What was it? The one time he visited the White House when he was younger, he actually excused himself, went up to the roof, and just smoked pot for the rest of the visit.
Oh, man.
Now, a thing that really hacks me off, I dislike intensely bicycles being on the road.
Bicycles, yeah.
Bicycles, cycles.
Yeah.
I always feel that when you come upon a pod of cycles, they say that, they ride two abreast and what have you. They don't, and I have video evidence and photograph evidence that if anybody's ever stupid enough to say to me, "Oh, it never happens," well, I have photographs on my phone of these maniacs.
Jeremy, do you mean bicycles or motorcycles?
I mean bicycles.
bicycles.
Oh,
Okay.
bicycles.
But another thing that hacks me off, are motorcyclists.
I should have
Now,
waited.
motorcyclists, sometimes when many motorcycles are riding together, they forget that others use the road also.
Oh,
I
no, they
often-
don't forget.
I often see 6 or more motorcycles, 3 in each lane, side by side, proceeding to drive, say, for example, 30 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone, just hanging out with each other. No way round them. Now, recently a guy got so hacked off he road raged a couple of them, and he shouldn't have done it, I grant you, but I feel for him. You know, this urge to plough through a pod of motorcycles or bicycles
There's a lot of
no
darkness.
is an
excuse
urge
for that.
that I
Darkness in
find
Jeremy
very
Taylor.
difficult.
Jeremy, they are respecting the rules of the road. They're allowed to ride 3 to a lane.
No, they're not. Not according to your highway code. It's 2.
I disagree with you. State of
Well, I've
Kansas
checked.
says it's 3.
2.
They will most likely, most of them die pretty soon anyway.
Doesn't matter whether it's 2 or 3. You're not going
That's
to
what
pass.
that's what doctors say.
in that
What's
lane.
a
You're gonna
motorcycle
get in another
rider?
lane anyway.
You have
Donor.
to. No, that
Donor,
was kind of where
yeah.
I was going. Yeah, you wouldn't be angry if a car. I'm sorry. You should be just as angry if a car is slowing you down. If you got 3
Yeah.
motorcycles doing the speed limit, whether or not they're chatting while doing it, that's kind of irrelevant.
I don't have any problem with motorcycles. I consider that a lot of them are clearly wanting to die.
Yeah.
But other than that,
And
that's
I-
their
I-
business.
I don't understand. It's a uniquely American thing when you get older to get on a Harley Davidson and start riding. Why not? When your reflexes are going down, when your eyesight's going down.
Good way to
when-
kill yourself.
Yeah, when your coordination's going on, when you're in no shape to ride these giant hogs. Why not jump on one and not wear a helmet? How about not wearing a helmet?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
at least
Brilliant
then it's
idea.
just you
Well,
going
Kathleen
into the
and
great
I were
beyond.
driving home.
Yeah.
We'd been doing something we probably shouldn't have been, and we were driving home from one of my radio shows that I've been hosting, and we're driving near our house, and we come to a corner. We're doing 40 mile an hour, 50 mile an hour.
Oh, way less.
Oh, all right,
This
less.
is a back road.
And a bunch of motorcycles come round the corner, and they're moving. I mean, the first 2 were really moving. They're doing 80, 90 mile an hour and powering
And
up.
they just come over a
right?
bridge and clearly didn't realize there was a corner on the other side of it.
And then a girl comes round on a baby Harley, right? And she didn't put it on the ground; it went on the ground, and the bike and her slid all over the place.
Yeah.
Right in front of us.
And
Right across.
she had scrapes in places you don't want to have scrapes.
Yeah.
And
You mean
she,
like Detroit?
And she was so lucky that I wasn't 30 seconds, 20 seconds further up that road because she'd have gone underneath my Range Rover.
And you know what she
Whoa.
was concerned about? She got out, and there was a leak in the tank of the motorcycle, which
Yeah.
her friends stopped and looked at. She was concerned that she hadn't scraped up her new tattoo on her shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't scrape it today.
It's so dangerous riding a motorcycle. I know there's a rush and there's a good feeling when you're on a bike, but man, it is so ridiculous. And like a wreck that usually is a fender bender and it's nothing, you're dead on a motorcycle. People that are tailgating, the stupidest people in the world, because a vehicle that can easily go over a dead armadillo on the road, that very same dead armadillo is going to kill you. Because if you run over it with over 60 miles an hour. And also, isn't there a correlation? I found a correlation between, I can always spot when a bike rider is an asshole and a dick. The more crap they wear, the more bizarre crap they wear, the bigger idiots they are. And I tell you, the biggest idiots, the biggest dicks are the ones that wear those Prussian helmets, like Otto von Bismarck era helmets. I see one of those, I know that's a moist douchebag right there riding on a motorcycle. Just can't stand these assholes. So you're not alone, buddy.
Okay, Sanders, I posit that Sanders is not a proper Democrat. Is he being a bore? More
As in
concerned,
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders is not a proper Democrat. Is he being a bore, more concerned with boosting his own ego with Secret Service protection and all those VIP trappings? His ego, which seems unable to let him walk away, is probably going to come home to roost as he's running against a woman who can actually run the country and can beat Trump. And if he doesn't get out of the way, he will be the man who history will blame for handling the country to Trump. Lewis.
First question. Can Hillary beat Trump?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Oh, yeah. She's already taken all the crap there is to take.
Oh.
There's
now she is actually
no.
losing
Trump
in polls.
hasn't even started on Sanders.
Right.
Can you imagine what he's going to be dredging up and the slime he's going to throw?
Yeah.
Sanders,
The
no
lies.
way can continue to do well against him once he starts getting the negative ads out there. Hillary's already faced all that.
We both watched the Bill Maher episode where he had the creator of Dilbert, the comic strip. And the guy apparently is a trained hypnotist. He went to school. They call it persuasion.
Art of persuasion.
Art of persuasion.
Uh-huh.
And he said that he predicted a landslide victory for Trump in the very beginning when he started listening to him, because Trump is very vague. He paints no targets. He says things like people say, some people think, some people are convinced, and he's very good at this like very simple art of persuasion. And also he's extremely good at branding. He comes up with catchy brands. For example, he started branding Hillary as sleazy Hillary. Oh no,
Something.
crooked.
Well, let's not
Crooked
worry
Hillary.
about it. He's
And-
conned on.
and he's using the crooked Hillary non-stop now because he created, what was it, sleazy
Sleazy Ted.
Ted. So he's using those catchphrases very, very well. And I'm starting to fear that it's possible. It's possible. that
There's
he will-
just recently the judge unsealed the records on Trump University suits.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's come out in that? There
doesn't
is
care
so
anymore.
much crap on Trump.
He doesn't care.
But he doesn't care.
It doesn't matter
and the
whether he
people that
cares or not.
He goes on the
people that
offensive.
follow him don't care.
Doesn't matter whether he goes on the offensive. He just looks stupid.
The reason
To
I
us.
have hope is because the people that follow him are a very precise and rather limited number. What we have not heard from yet
He's the middle.
are all the people
Undecided.
that are going to, at the last minute, come out and vote Democratic, and that would be the Hispanic community, the Black community, women.
The 60% of Republicans who do not support Trump,
Yeah.
they're not stupid.
But they'll vote for him just to avoid Hillary in office. They'll go in court.
Well, let's
So
move
my
on.
second-
Go on.
Yeah.
My second question is exactly what do you mean when you say Bernie's not a Democrat?
He
He's
isn't
not.
a registered Democrat.
Well, he is now.
He is now, but he never has
was
been.
until
He's
now.
always been an independent.
Yeah. Bernie
But
and
here's my-
Trump
here's
is
my
not
next-
a Republican. Bernie's not Democrat.
Here's
It's
my next question then. If we work onto that and take this question, please, seriously, okay?
You mean unlike every other question?
Yes. Can Trump actually be president? If he won the election, all those skeletons will come out of the closet. The media will ensure that. So we say it here on Wednesday Night Undressed for the very first time. I want you to hear it for the very first time here on Wednesday Night Undressed. Impeach Trump. You can buy the stickers on our website.
Well, if he does win, courtesy of Trump University and the lawsuits against him, he'll spend his first few months in office sitting in a courtroom.
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be special?
But we've
But
seen
do
that
we?
happen
Do
to
we?
presidents before.
Yeah, but do we think that he can actually do it? I mean,
I think it's
not.
almost a foregone conclusion that he can do it. I don't, quite honestly, I do not see any of the Trump momentum dying down at this point. I see more people deciding that they are going to support him than people maintaining their position that they're not going to support him. So
He's Teflon. Nothing sticks to him. I mean, he can do whatever. He can be the worst person in the world. It's all proven. All of his mishandlings.
Mad Magazine, he doesn't like him.
Currently, he lied about raising $6 million for veterans.
Yeah.
Nobody
And
cares.
Shamelessly, and nobody cares.
doesn't matter at all.
He went on the offensive against the reporter that uncovered the scandal. He was, "You're a sleaze." So the sleaze calls him a sleaze, and people are moving forward. They forget 24-hour news cycle.
Evo, can you share the Trump supporter story that you told me this weekend? What this guy thought Trump was going to do when he got in office?
I was at a party, and a Trump supporter said, and that I am afraid that's the average Trump supporter. He said, Trump might be a little crazy, but I think he's going to be great manager because he's so wealthy. He's going to step into the office, and with his personal wealth, he's going to offset our national debt.
Oh my God!
And this is a very
So
serious.
when it's proven that he's not nearly as wealthy as he's actually pretending,
He's
what
going
will
to have
that?
trillions of
Not
dollars.
going to matter. We keep throwing these rational arguments against
Okay.
Trump's
It's
popularity.
because people
And
cannot
people are
understand
irrational.
the difference between 6 zeros after a number and 12 zeros after a number. And
They
that's
don't
true.
understand.
They don't
But
understand it.
your point was that you're talking to a rational human being.
Yeah, and this is the
And one
most
Trump supporter I talked to said,
delusional
well, he might say stuff now, but when he's in office, he'll listen to smart advisors. No, I don't think so.
So every time I hear this argument that Trump can't become president, it literally makes the skin on my neck crawl because we have demonstrated over and over again that we are, as a people, much more interested in voting for personality than someone with substance. So
I think the impeach Trump bumper sticker idea is great. We really have to produce some of those, and we can start selling them now.
We hope shortly to be able to distribute them on Wednesday night undressed. You go to our website, and but we're coming up with designs for them at the moment. Impeach Trump.
They got to
And
have hair on them.
I did want to say, don't misunderstand me. You asked me, did I think Hillary can win? And I absolutely think she can. But it doesn't mean that I don't think that it's possible that, Trump could become president.
And we started this about Bernie Sanders.
right,
And I am getting pissed off at that guy. I really am.
I am, hence the email I
Yeah.
sent you. I'm getting very pissed off.
Did you know that Hillary Clinton has the best record with PolitiFact on telling the truth of any of the candidates for president?
no,
Any, yes.
I didn't
She is the
know.
most truthful.
Yeah, and
I haven't seen that.
I started looking at her as a victim. She's being branded as a liar consistently,
And she's not.
And it's gotten to a point where facts don't matter anymore. She's been branded. She's the crooked Hillary. Thank you, Trump, and people don't care anymore. You
Well-
can give them facts or whatever.
Let's not, compress this as if it's only happening in this particular election cycle. It has never mattered.
Imagine if
Go back
Hillary.
and look at the election of Jefferson versus Adams, and it never mattered.
Please
facts.
imagine for a second that one of the emails on the Hillary's infamous server had to do with raising $6 million for the veterans that she didn't raise. Do you know what kind of disaster that would be for her? For Trump, it doesn't matter.
I think what we're not used to as human beings is this happened to me last week, the week before, and over that weekend and the beginning of last week. Someone who I respected and trusted lied to me, a business colleague. Just lied, straight out lied. And it was such a stupid thing to do, this person, because
Jeremy.
they got found out by other people. It's not a he said, she said, and they have lost a huge amount of business. Tens, if
Because
not
of the
hundreds,
lie,
tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of business.
Jeez.
And it wouldn't surprise me if it's into six figures, because they lied. At first I thought they weren't lying, because I found it difficult to believe that they were lying. And I think this is the issue with Trump, is that he tells lies because he knows he can get away with it. And then when people call him out on it, for example, the media, well, everybody knows you can't trust the media, so no one's listening. And I'm concerned that, Hillary doesn't fight back. And there's going to come a point when she's going to get stomped
She's got
at.
at the moment fighting Bernie Sanders. She's got to
Exactly.
be able to concentrate on Trump.
But I think she has a chance against Trump.
I just don't hold to that. I
But
think
I
she's
don't-
got to fight Bernie because Bernie's close enough to continue to make it a fight.
Well, the problem she is caught between a rock and a hard place, because if she fights too hard against him, she can never coalesce the people that
But is
wanted
it
to vote
because,
for
showed
him.
us
is
that
it
that's
because
not true.
she is a she, one, and two, as I think Kathleen or somebody said, Bernie Sanders against Trump will eviscerate him.
Yeah.
He will just make up a bunch of lies about the guy. Nobody's going to know any difference. He's going to say
And Bernie Sanders will
goes
lose his temper
Bernie
on public
Sanders
television.
goes to the lavatory in sandals.
There's this notion that that's exactly what everybody wants to see, that the problem with Hillary is that she's not losing her temper. We talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago, that Hillary's literally not allowed to lose her temper.
I know, she's female. Women are not allowed to lose their
Yeah,
temper.
and I agree with you.
Yeah.
For that reason, I think people would be much more interested in the Bernie versus Trump smackdown round rather.
Might be more interesting. It's not going to run the country better.
She learned some things while running for the New York Senate, which was opposite people who just kept pounding at her and pounding at her. And the lesson she learned there was she just started laughing. And saying, by laughing, it proved how ridiculous it wasn't bothering her, and you're simply a ridiculous human being. And perhaps she learned enough that that's a weapon that she'll pull out again.
Okay, so everything that we've talked about thus far on this subject, even whether it's Bernie, whether it's Trump, whether it's Hillary, has been possibly maybe what ifs. Right now, the facts as they stand are that Trump polls better than anybody in the race, with the possible exception of Bernie Sanders. The question that we started with was, can Hillary beat... I'm sorry, the question that...
Does Trump have over 50% favorability? No.
Okay, the question was...
Please, yes.
The question was...
Can
in
Bernie
real
beat...
life... No, it wasn't. Can Trump actually be president?
Right.
And my thought is that I don't know whether anybody has dared yet point out to Trump that as he gets, let's say he wins the election, right, he is then going to have to deal with all sorts of, we call them men in grey suits.
Trump has already dealt with this. He actually said in an interview that he envisions himself much more as the chairman of the board than he does as the CEO or even the COO. He's going to be the idea guy. He's going to hire the smart people to actually do the day-to-day work.
But what happens if you have a Chief Justice who goes on the TV and says, my fellow Americans, I regret to say that I have asked the president, what's he called, the president to be, the president-elect, to stand aside.
What's Trump going to do?
And the country goes quiet.
What is Trump going to do?
Yeah.
And why would they ask him to stand aside?
Because they've discovered that he has had links to a mafia hit or something terrible. Genuinely, completely kosher.
Trump will go on TV and say, get a load of this guy. He thinks I'm not going to do my job. What's wrong with him? Is he a loser or what? And that's going to be the end of that discussion.
He's going to come up with a brand.
Evo has said a number of times that the Olympics will go ahead despite more than 100 to 150
To change the subject just
prominent
slightly.
physicians, biochemists,
segue.
scientists from around the world posting a letter on Friday urging the World Health Organization Director General Margaret Chan to exert pressure on Olympic authorities to move the Olympics from Rio, to delay the Games because of public health concerns over the Zika virus. Brazil, which is hosting the Olympics and the Paralympics, is at the epicenter of the rapidly evolving mosquito-borne epidemic. Letters signed by 150 individuals from more than a dozen countries, including Brazil, Japan, Israel, Russia, Sweden, South Africa, and the United States. It calls on the WHO to convene an independent group to advise it and the International Olympic Committee. Many athletes from all over the world are now saying that they're very concerned about going to Rio. They may be sort of strong-armed into it by their respective countries. Ivo, let's start with you. What's your opinion?
Well,
is it too late, or do people just simply not go if they're that worried about it?
Well, I think based on the data, it's not an epidemic. There's certain parameters for an epidemic to be designated as an epidemic. So it's not an epidemic yet. Also, athletes in their prime going to the Olympics, generally I want to say maybe 100% are not pregnant when they go to participate in the Olympics. Maybe if you are maybe if you're a shooter or something, you might be pregnant. But I believe the Zika virus is dangerous only for women that are currently pregnant.
Oh, no.
Is that
no,
right?
It attacks adults and gives them.
It gives
what
them
is it, Call
fever.
it Guillain-Barré? No, it can kill you.
Oh, it
it
can.
attacks lots of
Yeah.
other things besides pregnant women, and now
Okay.
it's transferred sexually, and stays in the body much, much longer than they
And
originally
if you
thought.
get it, Eva, your willy drops off.
And you know how those
Oh, and
Olympians
then the
like to
snake
screw.
we go
You
hungry.
should know this. If you're
Yeah.
going to be broadcasting
Yeah.
from Brazil, if
They,
you're going to
they
be
literally refer to
broadcasting
the
Brazil, your
Olympic
willy could drop
campground
off. Donna,
as like orgy prime.
Before all of the Zika came up, it was talked about around the world, the fact that the water, that all of the water, the
It's
boating
contaminated.
sports will be in, is polluted beyond the imagination
Yeah,
to
it's
comprehend.
the sewage
And I
factory.
said to my husband, why would they go? And he said this: you've trained and trained
All your
and
life.
trained all your life, and you may have only this one
chance.
moment
Yeah.
that comes around every 4 years,
Yeah.
and this may be it for you. And he
Yeah.
said, it doesn't matter what's going on, you will go.
And
People
to
will
my
do it,
mind,
yeah.
the key was in your phrase earlier, Evo. You said it's not an epidemic yet.
Yeah.
What is the possible scope of the epidemic? At the moment, it's not as great as it would be after thousands and thousands and thousands of people go there and then go back home.
Yeah.
And we don't know how big it can to get. That's what needs
can
studying.
spread, yeah.
How much spreading can happen? You trade off stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You don't ban cars just because people die using them. Okay?
Maybe motorcycles.
Or
yeah,
guns.
maybe motorcycles. Good. But
You don't ban guns.
You don't. You trade off. So
Yeah.
what is the trade-off? This is a possible epidemic that could really, really have devastating consequences.
No, I
Not
don't
just
know.
on the
Those-
Olympians,
Yeah.
but the
the half
Well,
a million.
500,000 people are going.
Yes, 500,000 people are going, and our Bulgarian is possibly going.
Well, he's not coming back here then.
Ivo
Ooh.
Ivanov.
It will
I
happen.
think it's important. Now, Ivo, we always like to get your advice on projects that you're working on, inventions. Do you have an invention that, because I'm sure you do, that actually can deal with the Zika virus and the mosquitoes?
Well, I mean,
It's like a sort of giant fly swat, really, I suppose.
yeah, I don't. I mean, that has been invented. The mosquito net.
Yeah.
It costs about $15.
Right.
At night, you just gotta use it at night, and there's mosquito sprays and stuff. I
But
wish
how
I had
do you
invented
get
that.
into the net without the mosquito? Because this sounds like a kickback to a porn movie. How do you slide into
Everything sounds like a
Let's see.
kickback to a porn movie,
yeah.
Jeremy.
I'm sorry, I
Slide
need
into-
graphics or a diagram or something. How does that go back to a
without
porn
the
movie?
Mosquito actually getting in there,
Yeah, no.
Slide in motion.
Yeah.
Donna, you obviously indicating you like to speak on this. What do you think?
I'm sorry, what is it I like to speak on?
Porn,
This is sliding and porn.
obviously.
Oh, I
Jeremy, you
passed.
did it.
I passed.
She's speechless.
For once.
I was mentioning a very specific example to you of porn, but I don't recall that I have ever, in any of your knowledge of me, indicated that I, follow, enjoy, embrace porn.
Oh,
It's
all
a
right
secret,
then.
is it?
Kathleen.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Okay. You obviously have been concentrating on porn again.
Oh, really? You wish.
She reads The Pearl, I think it's called.
Oh, yes.
So you've been looking at the media, and again, you don't pay attention to what you look at.
I miss words.
What words have you found have been missing in various headlines
Well, let's
this week?
see. I have I have a headline here about Keira Knightley. Okay? And apparently directors have had to defend Keira Knightley after one claims she's blank.
Gay?
What did they claim Keira Knightley was?
Too thin.
Too thin.
Crazy?
No, actually, the answer is that they claimed that she was too pretty to act.
I've actually heard that. It wouldn't have come to my mind, but yeah, I've heard that.
That's the sort of thing that makes me see red. Yeah.
Eva and I have found that actually in our broadcasting together, haven't we, Eva?
Yes.
Being
yes.
ridiculously good looking
Yeah,
is,
you can't.
it's very
It
difficult.
can
Yeah.
be inhibiting. Yeah.
It's a
Ridiculously
handicap.
being the word.
yeah.
Right, it's a handicap.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Particularly if you're using your hands.
Yeah.
I have
Next one.
a nice kind of funny one here. Japan wants foreign tourists to avoid what?
Japan.
Well, Japan, yes. Yeah. What does it want foreign tourists to avoid?
Hiroshima.
No, it's smelly.
Smelly. Wants to
Bathrooms with
avoid
snakes in it.
bathrooms
Public
with snakes.
flatulence.
Oh.
Apparently, all us Americans are going over there
I've
and
been
farting all over
avoiding
the place.
this
Yeah.
with devotion
Perfect
for
rock
years.
band name.
Yes. Public flatulence.
Oh, yes.
Public flatulence.
Very nice.
Well, actually, no, they were a band in 1968. You remember their European tour?
Yes, that was a great tour of public
Yeah.
flatulence.
They were touring with Uriah Heep, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, God. A steaming heap,
Yeah.
yes.
PFB.
Okay.
Steaming Heap, yes.
Public
Donald
flatulence
Trump
band.
has had headlines recently. Donald Trump wants journalists to blank instead of asking tough questions. What does he want journalists to do instead of asking tough questions?
Demure.
Drop dead.
Smile.
I'm going to go with strip.
No.
Public flatulence.
No, this has to do with the donations to the veterans organizations. He wants them to thank him.
Oh.
He thinks that
that's
they are
sweet.
being very nasty, not to
Yeah.
say thank you for raising all those millions and giving them to us, which turned out to come from a total of 5 donors, rich friends that he called after the fact.
Yeah.
And Dr. Orlando, it's time to move to you. And leaving aside, public flatulence being an amazing name for a new band, except that it's already been a band for ages, the word.
Well, brothers and sisters, actually, before I get into the official word, I want to introduce what could become a new session in the podcast. It's about advice. I was listening to Bobcat Goldthwait on a different podcast, who you may not know this. He's completely stepped away from acting. And
Directing now.
He's directing almost, he does directing and he does stand-up, but directing almost exclusively. And in the course of talking in the podcast, he said he basically didn't enjoy the acting process, specifically the interview, the whatever that casting call thing is. He hated all of that. And he said to Joe Rogan on the podcast, he said, if there's something that you're doing that you don't absolutely enjoy, just quit. Eventually you'll find something that you like to do. And that struck me as a universally good piece of advice. There's almost no situation where that's not the best advice. There's obviously exceptions.
The
but
world will come to a halt.
Well,
Like,
if you're squatting on a lavatory with no throne,
you probably
in
don't want to
Turkey,
quit then.
Yeah.
or
Point
going
being,
to Chipotle or something.
It made me realize that we are surrounded by advice all the time. People give us advice whether they're thinking about it or not. People will say things like, you should do this, or this is the best way to do this, or just make pronouncements on whatever. For instance, there's no crying in baseball. It's a piece of advice. It's maybe only salient to baseball, but there's some utility in there somewhere. And so I was thinking that with the people on this panel here, we can come up with advice that people give us every week. And I would like, in the future, to start off this section of the podcast, the Word, with maybe some words of wisdom. Whether they are universally good wisdom, whether they are only germane to a particular situation, or they are completely useless. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. What the fuck does that mean? So,
What does what the fuck mean, or Wang Chung?
what does everybody Wang Chung tonight mean? How does that help anybody or anything? These are the kind of questions I want this group to ponder at the beginning of the Word.
Okay.
I think it's
pondering.
what a mother. Wang Chunging is fairly simple. It's mother comes downstairs and finds her son looking at a computer, and then runs back upstairs to her husband and says he's Wang Chunging again. He's wanging his chung.
Okay. On
No,
that.
it's Chugging his
Wang.
wang.
Chungy's wang, it fits better, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the Word. Brothers and sisters, I would like to present to you today's word.
Today's new word.
Today's new
Oh, it
word
does have
is
only
blag.
4 letters.
Only
Oh,
4 letters.
We know what that means.
We know what blag means.
It's British.
Goddamn Brits.
Yeah.
All right. Does blag mean a synonym for gruel? Does it mean a synonym for black? Or is it a synonym for robbery? You don't have to recuse yourself. You can
Yeah,
say
I was
what
going
it
to say,
means.
I'll just sit back and let you tell me.
No. You two guess first.
Actually, interestingly,
Neither of them
it does
exactly
mean
what
one
we
of the
said.
things on that list.
Uh-huh.
But it also means.
I don't want to hear what else it means.
well,
we can
it
come to
has
that
2
later.
meanings.
Yes, you're right. And actually, I do have both meanings listed on the next page.
Right, well, I would go for 3.
Definitely 3.
Synonym for robbery
Yeah, with a little leaning towards 2.
with a little leaning towards 2.
Yeah.
I'll go for 3 with a little leaning towards 2.
Mr. Ivanoff?
Let me think about. I'll go for 3.
All right. It is, in fact, a synonym for robbery.
Yeah.
It has two meanings, like Jeremy said. It is either a robbery, a con, or a theft, or to obtain something
Yeah.
by ill-gotten.
Yeah, it's a
in
slang
England,
word.
in England now, it is very common slang word that's come in the last 20 years for con. To con, he blagged his way into the football game, which
Right.
means he got tickets when he shouldn't have done, or he blagged his way out of that one, didn't he, with the police officer? That sort of thing. Donna.
I just would like to say, because you know I have to do it, I've just been to New York, and I love to plug Broadway any chance I get. I've just seen some wonderful things, all of which opened in this past year. So if anyone's in the New York area, shuffle along. The Color Purple, Bright Star, just wonderful, wonderful shows. Please go if you get a chance.
Okay.
Okay, thanks to our producer and editor, Eric Holcomb and Tom Conroy, of course, for letting us do this every week. Do come and try his steak fries and for running probably the coolest proper pub in the region. From me, your host, Jeremy Taylor, thanks for joining in. And don't forget to check into our shows live on KLWN 1320, particularly on Friday and Saturday. Mornings at 9 a.m. Central, or go to the site Wednesday Night Undressed, and our editor and producer Neil
DeGrasse.
Neil the
Rasmussen.
Grinch,
Neil
Neil
deGrasse
the-
Rasmussen.
Neil Grass,
Neil
Neil
Boom Boom
Neil
Rasmussen.
Bum Bum Rasmussen. Yay!